So what's going on, guys? My name's Chris. I'm with Bourbon of the Week, and today we have some special guests from Straight Up Bourbon. We have Luke and JP. We both sent each other a couple of bottles. So as you can see on their screen, they have the Wigle over there that I sent them, and then they were generous enough here to send me some Wilderness Trails. So we're gonna pour these up. We're gonna try these out, give a few tasting notes, see what we think of each one. So everybody knows over here before we get started, time for the traditional sip. So while I'm, ooh. It's got a nice little kick. Guys, tell me a little bit about the Wilderness Trail. You probably know a little bit more than me.
Well, Luke knows quite a bit more than I do, but I know it's out of Danville, Kentucky. And I do know that they ship all across the United States. So if you're in the Pennsylvania area and you can't find it, they say just contact your local liquor store and let them know you're interested, and they should be able to reach out and get it pretty quick.
They recently, I think it wasn't even quite a year ago, moved over from the craft distillery circuit over to they're on the big tour now, so they're kind of in
the main
up to the big league. They have 3 different stills. They have a pot still, which they run experimental stuff, and they also do their, I believe it's rum and gin on that one, and then they have 2 column stills that they run different runs on there. They say they get different flavors off the different stills depending on what they're wanting to do. And one of the owner's grandparent worked at Stitzel-Weller for 50 years, so he has distillery
heritage.
That's always a good thing to have behind.
They have what, 3 different ones? They got the rye, the small batch, and the single barrel wheated.
Yeah, and they have a 6-year as well.
The 6-year I don't see too often though. Yeah. I always forget about that one.
So yeah, this is good. I know you said it just recently came off the craft list, but that's kind of crazy that what was it, 2012, I think I saw when I was looking some things up on this, is I think when they got their start or somewhere around there. This bottle particularly, it says it's a sweet mash, 64% corn, 24% rye, and 12% malted barley. You can definitely get that rye spice on this, which is one of my favorites. That 100 proof area with a high rye, that medium to high proof with a high rye is one of my favorite combinations. And this taste on this is actually fantastic. You definitely don't know. You would never think that they even were a craft distillery just a year ago.
Right.
Because it's absolutely, I mean, it's fantastic. It tastes like a bourbon that knows, the distiller definitely knows what he's doing to make a bourbon. Normally when you drink, at least for me, when I drink like a young bourbon like this, you can almost taste it on the actual drink there that it's a craft distillery.
Mm-hmm.
You guys might get that a little bit with the Wigle. When you guys do that, I think you'll actually be able to taste the craftiness in it, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but at the same time, you can just kind of tell. And this is obviously bottled in bond, so it's at least 4 years old, which is always nice that it's not, 2 or 3 years old as well.
Right.
The rye is a 4-year-old as well. I don't think it's a little bit higher. It's a 110 proof. The single barrel is a bottled in bond as well, so they kind of did that so you could actually mash it up with the small batch, which I think is a pretty cool idea.
Does the rye give you a mash bill on that?
Yes, traditional mash bill of 56% rye, 33% corn, and 11% malted barley. Copper pot distilled from single fermented batch using sweet mash process.
Gotcha. So yeah, very similar process, just the higher rye, obviously, for the rye. So in this one, for the bourbon, I'm getting very good brown sugar notes off the front of this, like a very good sweetness that I get off the front, which I love. And then it opens up to a little bit of an oakiness, which is kind of surprising it doesn't have an age statement on this, but I'm assuming it's probably closer to that 4-year rather than anything else. But you still get a pretty good amount of oak on this, which balances it out well. And then on the end is that rye spice, those baking spices and everything that I really enjoy. So very well balanced throughout, gives you a very nice little taste profile that you can work your way through, which I like a lot.
I agree from what I remember tasting of that. And I think it's worth noting that they only do sweet mash stuff, so they're kind of like in that peerless realm, which does drive up the cost because you don't get any of the back set. But
yeah, I just learned about sweet mash myself the other day between the sweet mash and the sour mash, and I knew there was obvious differences, but I didn't really quite know what it was. But it's always good because then you can, kind of tweak things as you go through the different batches and everything like that as well.
Right. Yeah, the rye, it's obviously more rye forward on the start, but it has that kind of like an overwhelming oakiness profile with it too once you get past that. So they do it does drink a little hotter, being 10 more proof, but they do kind of keep a same taste profile across, so which I think is pretty neat.
It's very sweet for a rye.
It's not as spicy.
Right. I mean, you do get the baking spices, but there's kind of like that sugary icing sweetness there. And I get like some earthy floral notes too on the front.
More so than the brown sugar note that you were getting there, Chris.
Yeah. It's very good. Like I said, for a craft, used to be not too long ago, a craft distillery. It's one of the better bourbons that I've had for that type of output. So one, it's good to see that they're moving into the bigger industry there, and that people can get their hands across the country on this, because they're definitely going to want to try this.
I think they're around 50-55 price range.
Yeah.
So
that's not too bad at all, especially for a bottled and bond 100 proof. And again, the ethanol on this was what surprised me. I mean, I had that first sip where there was definitely a kick at the beginning, but after that, it kind of really mellows out very nicely, and it's a very well balanced, finished bourbon here. So I'm very pleased overall. I like it a lot.
Cool.
Good.
Glad you like it.
Yeah, they're figuring things out over there in Danville for sure. So
absolutely. So I think it's your turn. You guys want to move on to that Wigle there and see what you're thinking on that?
Yep. Sounds good. So this is a Pennsylvania straight bourbon. Says from our family-owned distillery in Pittsburgh, and I think it was pretty cool. The little story on the back I thought was kind of neat.
I read that too. That's actually really cool.
Yeah.
So this is like you said, out of Pittsburgh there. The one thing they put on there that my wife likes a lot is everything's organic, which is a big selling point for them, and everything comes local. So they're grabbing all their grains and everything locally, kind of support the community around them rather than going out and sourcing it from other people, which is nice. The story, I know you mentioned that on the back. That's kind of like their whole story behind it. The whole Wigle name is kind of a cool story all the way back to the ages back in the day with Prohibition and everything like that. So the Wigle name's got a cool little history behind it, and I like that part about the story. So hope you guys enjoy that one. I'm drinking the Wigle Afterglow here, which is just a whiskey with natural flavors added. Another thing to note is they do everything on the side of the bottle here. I'm sure you guys see that on yours. They have the age statement on there and everything, which is nice that they're same thing as your bottle here, that they're open about it and not trying to hide anything or anything like that.
Yeah, that's always a huge plus. I don't know. We had some issues with another craft distillery about they were kind of trying to hide where they got their stuff. We found out later it was MGP, but they gave us a whole.
We like it when they're open about things now.
Right. Especially if it's not like you have to hide anything about MGP. You know what you're getting from MGP. You know that it's not like they were buying it off the side of the road and trying to pass it off as some great product.
Exactly. You kind of do get that craft note.
You get the craft note. Overly grainy.
Yep.
Is kind of what, but it's not bad. There's no very little like ethanol nose or taste to it.
Right.
So
it's definitely an easy drinker. 92 proof.
92.
You do get that corn sweetness. The rye spice, I think, comes in on the finish, like that aftertaste, like lingers.
Just
in your
little,
mouth. Yeah.
And I like the oiliness of it too.
Mm-hmm. It's got a great
just that texture to it. That's good.
Yeah, I didn't enjoy it as much as I thought I was going to, but it's definitely one of the better craft distillery ones that we have in the area. Again, it's that craftiness and you can't hate them for it because they are a younger company and you know what you're kind of getting with a craft distillery. And again, as they come to hopefully get as big as Wilderness Trail, where they can get a little bit of age behind their bottles and behind their bourbon before they start putting out some better stuff.
Yeah, I'd like to see a lot of distilleries coming from all over. I know you got like Smoke Wagon out of Nevada, but that's MGP. So, I mean, do you really count that? So I'd like to see companies like Wigle and the Flying Buffalo out of Michigan, just smaller craft distilleries from all across the states, become big, because it is a Kentucky-dominated world industry. So
absolutely.
Yeah, we've seen drastic improvements in Peerless just in the last couple of years.
I just had my first Peerless the other day. I had their bourbon. I've heard great things about their rye. I had their bourbon the other day, and that's where I found my first sweet mash. So they're doing good things, and I like that as well.
Yeah. Oh, good. I'm glad you can get it out there. I wasn't quite sure how far out they were selling right now either. So.
Yep.
Now, how long has Wigle been around?
Wigle was 2008, I believe, or 2010, somewhere around there, I believe. Don't quote me on
so
that,
they're still fairly young.
Right.
We were in Pittsburgh a couple months ago, and we saw like 2 or 3 different ones at one of the bar or restaurants we were at. Never heard of it. So yeah, it's awesome that you reached out and this is what you picked, because it's very interesting.
Very cool to get a chance to try it.
And then there are other stuff, like I mentioned, I'm doing the Afterglow, and it says spiced with roasted ginger and brown sugar. And this is actually, it's definitely a different experience. It's not a bourbon or anything like that, or even a rye. It's kind of just like almost like a flavored whiskey. And it does say natural flavor added. So I'm not big into the flavored whiskeys and everything like that, especially with, what you and I are all doing with the bourbons and the ryes and keeping it straight with that kind of stuff. But it's cool to come across something different, especially from a company that you already know, and supporting them, like you said, to help the growth as well. So.
Right. Now, what's the proof on that one?
This one is only 80 proof, and it almost sips like this would probably be really good in some type of mixer. Like, it's very, very sweet forward with this ginger and this brown sugar note. So it'd be interesting to pair with like maybe like a ginger ale or even a Coke or something like that.
Yeah, I think it's respectable even on their part that they're using ginger and brown sugar and not like something crazy like cherry, banana,
right.
Like subtly flavoring it instead of just going crazy.
Right. So I gotta ask you, out of 10, if you could you can use 2 decimals. This is I do a little scale on my channel here. So you can use 2 decimals between 1 and 10, or 0 and 10 if you wanted to give it a 0. But what would you guys give the Wigle there?
I'm gonna say about a C average.
That's not a number.
So like a 7.7.
7.7. Okay.
I think I'll go 6.99.
6.99. Yeah, I agree with you. I think I was right around there with my score on that as well. Again, they definitely have a little bit of work to do, but they have a good base right there. And being local, being organic, they definitely play into that support the community type of idea.
And that to me kind of bumps it up a little. Just it's not a huge, like if I was getting this from like a big like Buffalo Trace, it would be like a 4 or 3. It'd be a lot lower just because there's higher expectations.
Yep.
Yeah, and that like have you heard of Castle and Key before?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, they just started up, and their rye, it actually when it opened up it got worse, but like it's still, that's their first product they ever produced under their name. Like you can't really knock them for it. And it's the same, like you got to go into the craft world expecting something different,
right?
And then judge it on a completely different scale.
Yeah, and it's especially when once they can get some older whiskeys under their belt. There's definitely the companies like you mentioned with the Smoke Wagon who can go out and just start with MGP product until their stuff gets ready. But it's kind of cool to see, even if they have to wait like Wigle does for 2 years to get their product out the door. They're willing to put the time in. Yep.
Yeah.
I'd much rather support a brand that did that just started from the bare bones instead of just, because my big concern with that is too, when you get a brand that starts off with MGP and then just starts to blend in their own product, eventually it's going to be, there's no MGP left, and you might lose that bourbon that you loved to start off with. It could be a completely different product at the end.
Right.
5 years down the road.
It's definitely going to be hard to compete with your original MGP product because they know what they're doing.
Right.
Yep. Yeah, it's a big gamble. So starting fresh, putting your own thing out there, that's something to hang your hat on too. That's yours.
Yep.
I think that's really cool.
So I gotta be honest, you guys definitely won this battle if you ask me, because this Wilderness Trail, it's absolutely fantastic. I'd probably put this in like the lower to mid 8s, probably like an 8.4-ish, 8.5-ish. Cool. Again, I think everything that they're doing, 4-year bottled and bond, you can't really ask for too much more, especially from, again, not a craft distillery, but a younger distillery. So they're doing good products. They're putting out a good product over there, and I'm excited to see if hopefully they keep moving out here and they get into my stores eventually where I don't have to order it for it. But that'll be cool to see how big they can get.
Well, I mean, hopefully you get big enough too to where you're getting a lot of people going in asking for it.
That's it, right?
That's the dream.
That's what we're hoping for. So I appreciate you guys for joining me today, and we look forward to, I'm sure we'll do another collaboration soon. Maybe in a couple years when they get another good product out there, we'll switch another bottle or two. So I appreciate you joining me, and stay healthy, stay happy, stay drinking from me.
Thanks for reaching out. And this is it's the first time we've done this, but this is really cool. I'd definitely be down to doing this again.
Send you guys off with a toast. Friends may come and friends may go, but whiskey's here to soothe the blow.
Cheers.
Cheers.